Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rocking Celluloid, Bot back for short. I'm with Box. This is my summer box office review of how things have done worldwide in the US box office this year. I've always been obsessed with the summer box office. My obsession started back in about 1989, I think, or maybe before that. I got a copy of Premiere magazine, and that was the summer of '89. It was a very interesting summer, that, because films that were expected to be a hit weren't. There was franchise fatigue with a film like License to Kill, a Bond film which didn't do well. The Ghostbusters sequel didn't get anywhere near matching the gross of the original, and things like that. And things like Indiana Jones probably did better than people thought. Back to the Future 2 was a bit of a disappointment, and so on. So it's quite an interesting time to look at that. So looking at this summer's box office, I think after all the situation we've had with COVID and coming out of the COVID era, I think the studios will be fairly pleased with this. Certainly Disney. Obviously Disney, aside from being Disney, they bought Pixar, they bought Marvel. Marvel has now been able to get a hold of 20th Century Fox, Marvel as I call it. That's because Disney bought 20th Century Fox, renamed it 20th Century Studios. Of course, that gives you the X-Men. So the biggest hit this year is Inside Out 2. So Inside Out was a big hit. I started watching it, wasn't my cup of tea, but I think it's great family entertainment. Obviously, now it's several years since the first one. The kids have grown up a bit more and they can watch the teenage version of this. And this film's done extraordinarily well. It's done 1.65 billion worldwide as I'm looking here. It'll probably bottom out at 1.7 billion. Domestic gross is very high. The suits must be chuffed with this. And the same for Deadpool Wolverine. The Deadpool films, typically, I think the second one or the first one was about 700-800 million they were grossing. But it added attraction. Hugh Jackman has bought the fans out, and this is currently grossing 1.2 billion. It's probably going to bottom out about 1.3 billion. It's back up to number one in the American box office. Big, massive hit. I think the plot left a lot to be desired. But that didn't matter. It was very funny, and Hugh Jackman really brought his A game. He was obviously chuffed to bits to go back to being Wolverine. So that's a huge hit. As is another franchise that shows no sign of sort of slowing. It's Despicable Me 4. For me, watching this, probably the weakest entry or equal weakest entry, along with the third one in this series, but still enjoyable. $885 million grossed. Probably going to hit $900 million. Not a massive step down from the third instalment, and obviously the Minions film's still doing well, so expect to see a third Minions film, expect to see a fifth Despicable Me film. They will keep making these films until they don't make money. So that's another big hit. The film which really started off the summer for me is typically the summer season, it starts in May, but the studio's sort of kind of moving it back and kind of trying to squeeze films in before that. I think Godzilla X Kong the New Empire was really the first film to kind of get out there. And it's quite interesting, these films show no signs of not being unpopular at the moment, which is strange because I thought the second Godzilla, King of the Monsters, was terrible. And I was very disappointed with Godzilla vs. Kong. I never went to see the New Empire. I'll watch it on streaming or something. But it's grossed $567 million, nearly $200 million domestically. So, this weird universe, or whatever people want to call it, continues to make money. They just need to be careful they don't spend too much. Kung Fu Panda 4 was another film as well. That came out a bit earlier in the season, and again, big gap with that, but it's grossed $550 million worldwide. So that doing well. Then you get the comeback Will Smith All Is Forgiven film, Bad Boys Ride or Die. This grossed $400 million on a budget of $100 million. I think they've been savvy here. They know these films are going to gross about that. There's no point in going out spending $200 million, $150 million when it's not going to make that kind of money. So, $100 million budget, $100 million marketing. It's grossed $400 million. It's in profit. When it goes to streaming, if people buy Blu-rays, TV rights, it'll make a profit. I think it shows Will Smith people, aren't bothered, or they've forgotten about his slap incident. Although he's not the huge star that he was, in the right vehicle, he can still attract people. And this interesting reboot, actually, Bad Boys. So I never really liked the first two Bad Boy movies. I'm not a massive fan of Bayhem, so the third one I actually preferred. Haven't seen this one yet. Next film, I'm just looking at the Box Office Mojo here, and I think this film's a bit of a conundrum. I quite liked it. It's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but I think there's a problem here. Again, this is a 20th Century Studios film, so again, it's Disney. They've spent $165 million on this film. They've had to do quite a bit of marketing to relaunch it, so I suspect its negative cost is at least $250 million, maybe $300 million. And that's gross. It's not gonna. It's cough spluttered to $397 million. I don't think it'll gross $400 million. It's going to return $200 million to the studio, so it's not in profit. It's very hard, I think, to make these films for less money. They don't have stars in. It's all CGI heavy. This film didn't cost any more and less than any of the other Planet of the Apes films really since they rebooted them. And the first one cost $150 million, I think. So will there be another Planet of the Apes film? Really, you have to get the cost down. You've got to think that, this is the ceiling gross. The problem with this film is the character arc of Caesar was brilliant. He's actually one of the best character arcs of any character in film, I think. It's very good, and across three films it works. It's hard to get as infused about this. Even though I love seeing the CGI chimps, I love seeing LA covered in grass and stuff like that. So I think this is a difficult one in the boardroom of the suits. Do they continue this franchise, or is there a way they can get the budget down? So if the next film grosses the same, it'll turn a profit. This, eventually might cough and sputter to a profit because you can put it in box sets, streaming and so on, but it's not clear. A weird one is Twisters. I've got this in the Met category. What I've been by Met is like films that have done okay, but not great. Now Twisters have done very well at the domestic box office, $250 million, but for some reason its international gross is very low. Now the original Twister, its international and domestic gross were very evenly paired. I think it grossed a bit more internationally. I don't know why. I checked, and seems to have been released everywhere. So although it's got a $250 million gross in just under in the US, its foreign gross is just under $100 million. So at the moment, its global gross is going to probably bottom out about $360 million, which would be good, but it cost $155 million to make. Factoring marketing budgets is going to put its negative cost at least to $250 million or more. Could be knocking $300 million, but even if it's $250 million, it will not return that on, grosses $360 million. It'll only return $180 million. So this is another film that, although it's grossed reasonable numbers, it will not show a profit as yet. Kind of weird thing to do a sequel to. It had pretty good reviews. People like the casting. A mate of mine saw it and he said it was just like Twister, really. It was just like a remake of Twister. So that's a kind of strange one, more Twisters, I don't know. Other Met ones really was If, the John Krasinski kind of kid thing, that grossed $190 million worldwide. Pretty good, okay, for a family film, again, $110 million budget. Factoring the marketing, this is going to struggle to make a profit. I think what was strange about this film, whatever marketing I saw for this, I just didn't really understand it. It just seemed to be about imaginary friends, but it was never clear with its marketing where it wanted to sit in its kind of flaming marketing plot. So for me, that would be a kind of head scratcher. And the same for Garfield. Again, I want to see the Garfield movie because I like Garfield. This grossed $228 million. I don't think it's hugely expensive. Maybe this costs about $75. But again, you factor in marketing and stuff, it will struggle to make a profit. It might do eventually. So again, more Garfield films. They're obviously a bit of a reboot. This, you've got to think, are they going to, do more of those? The other minor one here I've got is Trap. This is the M. Night Shyamalan. This has only grossed $70 million worldwide at the moment, but it's only a $30 million budget. So, with reasonable marketing costs and streaming and so on, this film will probably turn a profit. That's pretty much where M. Night Shyamalan's at now. He's moved into low, medium budget films. This film didn't get great reviews, but there's still interest in his work. So just down the other list, I think Of Quiet Day Place 1 has done well, $261 million, considering it's a prequel. Again, I haven't seen it. I know some people have, and some people are like, well, what's the point? But these aren't expensive, hugely expensive films, so this will turn a profit. As well, it ends with Us. I've no idea, I never heard of the author this is based on, which is very popular. This film's done really well, 242 million. It's still got lots of legs to run. This will certainly gross over 300 million. Will turn a healthy profit. Okay, so that's kind of like the films I think that have performed well and their films. Let's look at the flops. So the huge flop is Borderlands. The trailer looked pants. The buzz on this wasn't great. They spent $120 million on this before marketing. Negative costs on this could be 150 million or more, maybe 200 million. This film was grossed about 30 million worldwide at the moment. So this is going to make a huge loss for the studio. The reviews were poor. I just think it's that thing where computer game adaptations are so difficult they often don't return a profit. I think people were a bit critical. It looked like it was trying to be like Guardians of the Galaxy. So yeah, I wasn't interested in seeing it. It's interesting it had that kind of colourful Mad Max thing, which brings me to Furiosa. So this film, I think, bottomed out about $160 million gross worldwide. The budget was 165. You got the marketing. Again, this isn't going to make a profit. What's strange about this, I mean, obviously Fury Road got 10 Oscar nominations. It's a brilliant film, but it's still only grossed $350 million. Now, I'm sure it's popular on Blu-ray. People who still buy physical. I'm sure it's made a profit. But it's, it got away with not having Mel Gibson in and being brilliantly shot. But now you've got a Mad Max film without Mad Max in it. Apparently people who saw it, I didn't get around to it, I must confess, did say they found it enjoyable or a little bit more CGI, which they didn't like. But at the end of the day, I just think this film was always going to struggle. The trailer wasn't like Fury Road. It wasn't like begging me to go to the cinema to see it. But more to the point, it's just, the Mad Max films have always been successful, but niching, and this wasn't the sort of film you can be spending $160 million on. Which brings me to Alien Romulus, which I put in actually the hits. This film's doing pretty well. It's flawed, it's not great, but it only cost $80 million. Factor in marketing, it's already grossed $225 million. I think US, it'll definitely do over 100 worldwide. Certainly north of 300, could be 350 or more. But either way, it will show a profit. If they carry on with the Alien Saga, that's fine, but you do not want to spend much more than that. There's a ceiling to what these films can gross. The Crow reboot is going to flop. It's already a flop. I don't like the look of the trailer. Who wants to see a Crow film with, without Brandon Lee? He passed away. The other Crow films are flops. I think Bill Skarsgård is in bother now. That film he did where he had all the fighting in and he didn't speak and he had the voiceover in his head. Boy Meets World, is it? That flopped. I'm hoping Nosferatu's good. But... it's putting actors like that in the lead, they're not leading men to me. Fly Me to the Moon, that's second Channing Tatum dud, really. This other film he's in, the Zoe Kravitz one, doesn't seem to be doing that well at the moment. But Fly Me to the Moon, again, it's going straight to streaming, to Apple after it's been at the cinema. If you're doing that, people aren't going to go and see your film. But I think it shows the other thing that Channing Tatum was sort of box office a while ago, but he's kind of had a bit of wobble recently. But Scarlett Johansson just isn't. And that idea of not being stars and not being box office brings me to what I think is the biggest disappointment of the summer for the the studios, and that would be The Fall Guy. I'm just looking for its gross on here. Apologies, I've got to go quite far down. I can't find it. There it is. So The Fall Guy's grossed $180 million worldwide. 90 in the US, 87 foreign. The trailer for this, I didn't like the trailer, but you had Emily Blunt, you had Ryan Gosling, they'd had their summer battle in Oppenheimer. That was played up to. Ryan Gosling was very funny at the Oscars. He did his Ken performance. The Fall Guys, not a massively beloved TV show. This is on my generation, but a cool film about Hollywood stuntmen, directed by a stuntman. Last time that happened was Hal Needham did Hooper back in '78 with Burt Reynolds and Jan Michael Vincent. If you've not seen that film, check it out. bit of a time capsule. But this film just didn't open very well, and it actually had a kind of bit of slow legs over the summer, but it just didn't get that. Why is that? Look, I really like Emily Blunt. I've never been a massive Gosling fan, but they're not movie stars. You might think they are. They star in films. They are in some big movies, but they're not people who can open some films. For this film to open, it needed to have what I call a recognisable IP. It needed to have a better trailer, I think. And that was the reason this film will be a crushing disappointment for the summer. Everything you'd think when you read about this one, you'd think it would be set up to roll out nicely and do as well as the director's last film. I think it was Bullet Train. I could be wrong with that. But it's not done terrible. I don't think it'd lose a vast amount of money. Maybe it'll pick up a bit when it goes out of streaming and so on, and video on demand. But I just think it shows that thing that, you know, gone are the days where there's someone who you can plonk on a poster and will open that film, or maybe Hollywood needs to get back to trying to create stars. I don't know. Just finally, I did see Longlegs, and that was one of the little kind of sleeper hits. It's grossed 100 million worldwide at the moment. I thought it might have done better actually in the States. There's quite a buzz about this film. Although 70 million gross is very good, I thought it might get up to that Smile level where it's kind of going over the 100 million mark. But I think it's probably that bit too creepy and that bit too strange. It's not a typical horror film, but you know, I can't remember what the budget of that film is, but that will turn a healthy profit. So that's my summer review. Clearly, like Disney's the winner there, I think. But hasn't all worked out for them totally. But with the stuff they, you know, the IPs they own, you know, it means they've done good. So yeah, see you again soon, and remember, share and subscribe. Thanks very much.